Bitch is a Bad Word podcast is for informational purposes only and reflects the opinions of the host and guests. It contains explicit content and discusses sensitive topics such as domestic abuse, sexual assault, and violence, which may be distressing to some listeners. Please take care of your emotional well-being while listening. While we strive for accuracy, we make no warranties about the completeness or reliability of the information, and any reliance on it is at your own risk. We do not endorse third-party views and are not liable for any defamatory claims. Listeners should conduct their own research and consult professionals before making decisions. If you or someone you know is in danger, please call 911 or contact the National Domestic Abuse Hotline 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at 800-799-7233 or text START, S-T-A-R-T, to 88788. We've got your back, besties. Caliber Studios has not independently verified the information you're about to hear. Reality isn't always what it seems. It's what you make of it. Sons of Anarchy actress Ali Walker debuts her electrifying new thriller, The Light Runner, on June 6th at Amazon and Barnes & Noble. But our bestie gang can pre-order it now at aliwalkerofficial.com. She's a baddie. She's your new bestie, and we've got her back. Go visit her website, aliwalkerofficial.com, and pre-order The Light Runner now. Besties, we have been growing a bestie gang over on Patreon. So please do pop over there, patreon.com/bitchisabadword, and check out the community that's growing. There's some really great conversations, some really, inspiring women over there growing this initiative, this bestie gang. And we really love to see you over there. If you're new here, we have just dropped some merch and it is fire. So please do check out our merch. Portions of our sales are through our company, 2weeksnotice.com, where you can find all of our merch. Do go to support victims of domestic violence. So you are helping women crown their chaos with their hats and also giving back to women who need it. So thank you so much for your support. We love you. You guys are just the greatest audience, and I'm lucky to know all of you. Thank you so much. Welcome back to this episode of Bitch Sesh. I'm Lindsay. I'm your host. I'm one mom with 4 kids and 0 fancy letters behind my name. I bring on all the experts to help us unpack our experiences together as we navigate our roads through and out of domestic abuse. My goal is to meet you wherever you are on your journey and bring on survivors to sit down with us on this special segment of Bitch Sesh and spill the tea of their story, so you feel seen and safe and loved and heard. Today, I have the absolute honor of sitting with Kelly Sutliff. I thought she was an important guest for Bitch Sesh because she is a survivor of domestic abuse, but she is also a trained psychotherapist. She knew the signs to look for. She was trained in the human mind and experience. And yet, like we've heard and we've seen so many times, she fell victim to a pathological person who abused her. I don't have any fancy letters behind my name. I just have experience. And so if you're sitting and you're listening and you're like, how the hell did it happen to me? Kelly's here to break it down for you. It happened to her. And we're going to help you while she shares her story. She is a trauma-informed psychotherapist, a survivor of domestic abuse, and the co-founder of Kelly's Canines, a 501c3 offering canine support because dogs are not just a man's best friend. I'm tripping on my words. Man's best friend. These dogs can help our besties. So let's get into it. Kelly, welcome to Bitch is a Bad Word.
Thank you, Lindsay, for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I have been so excited for this chat because, I followed your story and it's bananas. And, Your Instagram is very informative. I love your content. I love how you're helping women understand trauma and experience. So I want to break down a little bit about what you do. So you're a psychotherapist, you're trauma informed, which is like,
Mhm.
that is what we're trying to have our besties understand. You need to find the trauma informed healer because nobody understands, what we're going through until you've been through it, right?
Absolutely.
So you have mentioned like your body understands, feelings before we sort of understand it in our mind. And
Absolutely.
can you explain that for us?
Sure. So a lot of times your body is signaling to you first that something might be wrong before your mind catches up with it. So in my own personal case, I didn't necessarily have the butterflies, which I think a lot of individuals do. And the butterflies are definitely a red flag. In my personal case, my gut just kept telling me that something wasn't right with my ex, Chris. And to be honest with you, Lindsay, if I had listened to my gut on the first date, Chris would have never gotten a second date. And the way I describe it, I would just have this like pit in my stomach after he said something or after he did something. It was just like this pit. And I was kind of like, ugh. And I really couldn't put words to what that feeling was. But now, understanding, everything that happened and who Chris really is, I really believe that was my body warning me like things aren't adding up. He might not be who he says he is. Things aren't how they seem.
This is pretty important for our listeners to understand. We're speaking you are somebody who is trained to feel to know that you're trained.
Right.
You're trained and you got hoodwinked.
Right. Yeah. And, I think people will say to me all the time, being a psychotherapist, like, how did you not know? And I think for a number of reasons. I think because that's when my brain took over and rationalized the physical symptoms I may have been having that were trying to warn me to be like, oh, you're making too much of this. Like he really appears great. You're really making too much of this. The other thing I think it goes to show is that these abusers, this isn't a compliment, but they're really good at what they do. And for them, women like you and me, like this is a challenge for them. They go for women and also men who are assertive, opinionated, intelligent, because it's a game for them. It's a challenge. So I really kind of think that's twofold in that, I was rationalizing those feelings away because I wanted to believe that this was true. And the other piece of it is he was just really damn good at what he did.
He's the entire package, right? I mean, your first talk to me about your first date.
So Chris really checked off every box that I had. Now I have reason to believe, to be honest with you, that he may have known of me before we even matched on Bumble. Um, yeah, so there was an incident when we were dating where he said, "Oh, he back in the day, I used to blog a lot. Both my parents are deceased. That was a really good way for me, to heal from all of that. So I blogged and I loved writing. And while we were dating, he made a comment to me basically saying, like, oh, when I read your blog. And I remember thinking, and this was early in the dating stage, I didn't send you that blog. But of course, then that was one of those incidents where my gut was like, something's not right. Totally rationalized it away because I'm thinking, why would he lie about something like that? I'm sure I sent him. After the December 16th incident happened, I'm going through all this stuff in my head and I look through our text messages and lo and behold, I never sent him that blog. So I think he may have known of me and then really kind of formulated his personality and who he was around that so I would be attracted to him. And that's what abusers do, right? They're chameleons.
Mhm.
So they're going to give you what you need. They're going to give the next victim what she or he needs. And our first date, I thought I hit the jackpot. I thought, my God, for every woman who let this man go, thank you. Because this guy is a dream. Now I know like he was my worst fucking nightmare. But like I'm thinking this is great. And the biggest thing about that first date that I can remember is Chris really wanted to know a lot about me. And you know what dating's like. Dating's really hard. And there were so many dates I sat there with men and I'm like, oh my God, all they do is talk about themselves. So for him to just want to know everything and anything about me, like I was enamored by it. And he wanted me to, he kept saying, just be yourself, be who you are. I want to fall for who you are in reality. And just, I ate it up.
Now we know he was taking inventory.
100%. 100%. Because, at one point after everything happened in looking in his phone, he had a list in his notes section of all stuff related to me. My parents' birthdays, the dates they died, their favorite colors, it was the creepiest thing one of the creepiest things I've ever seen when it comes to Chris.
I
But
just got
like
chills like all down my legs, which I'm gonna say, Kelly, I don't get chills there typically. It's usually like that was like my whole legs are like,
yeah.
that's fucking chilling.
Yeah. So when you say inventory, Lindsay, 100% he was taking inventory.
And so then we're like, let's bring it back a few minutes. He's already stalking you. He's already he's found you somehow. And I love that you were like, it tracked because we're not stupid.
Right.
It's like you're like, well, that doesn't add up. How many things don't add up? And that didn't add up. You're like, I never told you that. But then you're like, maybe you can that's one of those kind of like pinkish flags that you're like, I guess I could have mentioned it, but you know better.
Right. And I love that you just said that about the pink flags because people say, like, how did you not know? Not only being a psychotherapist, but how didn't you know? And I always say, because the red flags weren't blaring, they were pink.
Yeah.
And then they became blaring when the big thing happened. But up until then, there were these little pink flags that could easily be rationalized away by myself. Or if I brought it up to Chris, he easily rationalized it away with something that was so believable. And I'm like, oh, yeah, you're right.
Which
so
is
I'm glad
making
brought
you
that up.
doubt your reality, which is part of what they're like the gaslighting. But like, wow, like he's a professional. He's gone in there, he's twisted it. He's like mind fucking you, probably dishing up a nice word salad, and you're like, all possible, and all while probably telling you, Kelly, you're just so amazing and beautiful,
Right.
and I love you, and we've only known each other 8 minutes.
Right. And then I'm feeling terrible because I'm like, oh, God, why would I even think that something's, that he wasn't telling the truth or something didn't add up?
Do
Exactly.
you think that maybe like because you're like a psychotherapist, you were like, did you ever tell yourself, Kelly, like turn your work brain off right now?
100%. 100%. Because that's what I do for a living. Like I get inside people's heads to understand their behaviors and their thoughts to help them move forward with whatever it is they're trying to move forward with. So, I analyze for a living. So my friends have told me, not so much, in my recent years, but back in the day when I first started as a psychotherapist, like, don't psychoanalyze me.
Right.
So I really made it a point not to do that in my personal life. So 100%. Absolutely.
You're like, no, don't do it. And if everybody told me not to do it, I'm not going to do it. I mean,
Right.
your body's going, do it, Kelly.
Right. And now I'm like, screw you all. I'm psychoanalyzing everybody.
You're like, I've seen too much.
Right.
And I know too much. Okay, so he's taking this inventory. He's got his mask on, but I love too, like let's have the listeners, I hope you're hearing how many times his mask slipped just a little bit where, because we're humans. He's not a robot. So then the thing about your blog and I'm like, were there any other like little slips that you can go back to now going, that's when, or some kind of moment where his mask slipped, but then he quickly put it back on.
So I'll give you a really good example. And it's a really fucked up example. So there was one time that I was sitting at the kitchen table with him and his son. And he picked up his son from school and they come back and they're sitting at the kitchen table. And he turns around and he says to his son, I won't say his name, but he said, hey, I brought so-and-so to visit your parents today. at the cemetery. And that again is where my gut did that like drop thing. And I remember thinking to myself, why would you A, do that without me? And B, I can't remember taking you to the cemetery. Going to the cemetery is like not my thing. That's not where I talk to my parents. I don't like going. I talk to them every single day. And then he turns to his son because I think he saw my face a little confused and probably the wheels turning in my head. And he says to his son, right? Didn't we go meet Kelly's parents today? And his son looks at him and goes, yeah. So I'm now thinking, why would the kid lie? Like, why would the kid lie? And I just let it go, but it's something that always bothered me. So after the incident, the attack happened, I was on the phone with the son's mother. And I said to her, just do me a favor. Like, there's something that's always bothered me. Ask so and so if he ever went to the cemetery to visit my parents. And I was on the phone with her, so I heard her. And she asked, and he turns around, he's like, no. And that's another time the mask slipped. And I just was like, I knew it. I knew it in that moment. But again, I rationalized it away and then he caught himself. So that's where it slipped and he didn't really put it back on real fast when he saw my reaction.
How long into you together did he do this?
That was after we were married.
Okay.
I think his mask started to slip more and more, again, with these very little things after we got married. Now, we did get married very quickly.
Okay.
So I met him in August of 2018. He moved in with me by the beginning of November of 2018. We were engaged December 1st of 2018. Married officially January of 2019, and then announced the wedding because we did this elopement thing in Hawaii in April of 2019.
Whose idea was it to do the elopement?
So it was both of ours.
Okay.
I have a very, very small family. He, which probably tracks, has a smaller family, but he wasn't talking to the majority of them at the time we got together, which I'm sure tracks with a lot of narcissists and abusers. We did the January, and that was like the official wedding. It was very small and intimate. It was actually, we had it at the place my parents got married. His mother was ordained, so she married us, and it was just really small. But we didn't announce it because we knew that we were going to go to Hawaii in April and do this elopement and then announce it kind of to everybody.
Okay. So this is where if you're listening and you go back and you're listening to the timeline, you probably had a similar timeline, or if you're just in a relationship that's having red flags, they love to move at rapid pace. And we know this so that because they don't have a lot of time because you're going to figure it out.
Right. They can only hold the mask up for so long before you start catching on. And that's why they move these relationships at such a rapid pace. Because once they marry you, now it's legally more binding. So it's harder for you to get out once the mask slips.
And the mask is going to slip. There's no way that it always does.
I met him at my daughter's college graduation. I pictured being in a fight with him. He was my daughter's boyfriend. 20 days later, he took her life when she tried to break up with him. When Dating Hurts is the name of my podcast. I knew I could not bring Kristen back, but believed I could help others who became tangled up in dating abuse and domestic violence. My guests are domestic violence survivors. Who knows more about the toxicity, the entrapment, devious manipulation, the loneliness, the pain and suffering than brave survivors who live to tell about it? Their stories are raw, intimate, plain-spoken, deeply personal. For many, this is the first time they've told their stories in one place. Today's survivors want current victims to know there are ways to achieve freedom. There is a process that's safe, that this can happen to anyone, and that you are not alone. Join me and my courageous guests on the When Dating Hurts podcast. It's a series of lives being saved.
So he's taking inventory. And then you're like, and This is the other thing that I want to ask you too, because he came um, to the relationship with a child. So then that's another layer of like in, entanglement that feels very hard to untangle. And I would imagine as a psychotherapist, you understand like the nuances of blended families and children. And you're like, I have got to help. And like, you're also feeling for this boy.
Right.
And that,
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. Thank God. Obviously, Chris did not paint his son's mother correctly when we were together.
was
So
she
he really
such a bitch? She's
She was the
crazy.
worst person in the world. Exactly. Crazy, alcoholic, drug addict. I mean, all of his exes were like abusive, horrible, just wanted him for money. Like you name it, he said it. I obviously have learned now she is absolutely none of those things. And she's actually a wonderful mother. So thank God his son has one stable, good parent. Um, because as you know, that's really important when you're dealing with someone who's toxic, that is a parent. As long as they have one stable parent, their chances of turning out to be a healthy adult are good.
Thank you for saying that, because so many women stay. I stayed, because of the kids. And you're like, I can't, we have this, I believe, false narrative about divorce being so horrible for families. And it's like,
Right.
I don't know who runs the institution of marriage campaigns, but it's someone who's like fucking with us, because we're
Right.
learning that it doesn't, a toxic marriage is way worse than a breakup with one toxic and one healthy person. 50% of the time that child is not experiencing trauma.
Absolutely. I agree with that 100%. As a psychotherapist, I can tell you that's true. That it is more important that kids grow up in a healthy household, regardless if that includes one parent, two parents, or at least just some stable adult. If both parents, for whatever reason, aren't involved in the child's life, it is more important that this child grows up in a healthy environment than an unhealthy one. And I can tell you from being a psychotherapist, I have more kids and adult children of toxic marriages and families that end up on my couch than I do kids who grow up in a divorced family that at least grew up in a healthy environment with one parent. I really do.
That is so important to hear, because if you can let go of your marriage is never going to be healthy. Like, okay, so, but don't kill yourself over it. Like like you're staying in a relationship that it literally could kill you. It literally is like mentally wearing down your children, yourself, and you are not a bad mother for leaving. And you can then have, if you flip it, go like, okay, well, 50% of the time that they're with the toxic person, I can do things for myself to make myself a healthier mother. And then when they come back, my environment can be peaceful and amazing. And I can give them 50% of like amazingness.
Exactly. And that's the life they deserve, right? And the other thing I'll say about that is I've had so many people say to me, but the kids are young. Like, I don't want to leave right now because the kids are young. Another thing I have to tell you, I actually think it's better to be able to leave when the kids are young. Kids are really resilient at a young age. They really are. They bounce back much easier than older kids do. And listen, you should, at any point you're in a toxic relationship, you should leave, whether the kids are older or not. But I have more kids who are older that sit on my couch when their parents are going through a divorce than I do younger kids.
Again, from the mouth of you're an expert and you are a victim. So it's like you've seen it from both sides. And,
Right.
And again, this is very important for anyone to listen who, because there's a lot of shame. Like, how did I let this guy do this? Like, I can't believe this is my life. I've experienced it myself. You just feel a lot of guilt, a lot of shame. And when you have kids, you're like, now I've done this. You are a licensed professional and it still happened to you. So anyone who's listening, there is domestic abuse doesn't have you don't need degrees, or you do have degrees, whatever. There's just like the barrier to entry is like, bam.
Anyone's at risk. And that's why one of the reasons why I started speaking out is because people have this idea of what a victim looks like. And it's just, it's not true. A victim can be anybody, anybody in any profession. Anyone can be a victim. So I started speaking out to let people know, like, just like you said, I'm a licensed professional. Like, I was trained in people. And this still happened to me. So if it can happen to me, it can happen to anybody. And I'll tell you what, and I won't go too much into his exes, but the one ex is an interrogator in the government. The other ex is a very prominent family law attorney. So it's a game.
It's a game. We've said this so many times. A cat doesn't want to play with a dead mouse.
Yes.
They
Right.
want you smart. They want you to have an opinion. They want you to push back. They want you to get a little feisty. They
They
want
want the challenge.
Yes.
The challenge.
I wonder too, like in your profession, I kind of like look back. I don't do it anymore, but when I was like kind of in my like self-loathing part of my healing journey, I was like, why me? And then I was feeling that why me, but then I started going back a little bit going, I would love to know the ones who he didn't stay with. Like, what was their personality type? Like, were they what I'd love to know that. And in your experience as a professional, these people typically move on quickly from people who
Immediately. And you can always, like, there's like this meme out there. I'm sure you've seen it, but it's true. Like, you can always tell the truth because, obviously the abuser is saying that they're the victim in this situation. But you can always tell by who moves on quicker and then who's staying single to do the healing work on themselves. It's
Mhm.
true.
Oh
It-
yeah.
it's
That is so important because well, I had discovered like within a couple days of leaving, just because like we still had shared stuff. And so like in search histories, there was like immediate like asking questions in foreign languages. Would you like to go on a date with like what? And I'm like, I can't even get showered. And I'm
Right.
like,
right.
changed my underwear in 24 hours. And you're like already looking
Right.
for a date.
It's
Like,
insane.
I think that I'm glad I saw it now in retrospect, but at the time I was like, it made me feel like such shit
Of
because I'm
course.
like, oh, wow, how long has like this been going on? Or like, that's not what it is. They've just ready to move on because they have no feelings to you.
Right.
It's like
Right.
they need the next supply.
Exactly. And you feel completely devalued when you realize how quickly they moved on. But I think what you said is so important to remember. The reason they can move on so quickly is because they're completely void of any emotion. And I know that hurts for some people to hear. And of course it hurts for me to hear. I can remember in the show Toxic when Elizabeth asked me, like, do you think he ever loved you? And if you watched it, you can see me start to tear up. And I answer just no. And it sucks to have to say that, but it's the reality of the situation. I don't think he really loved me. I think he loved what he thought I could do for him until I stopped doing it.
Let's talk about that. So you are a baddie because you're this like strong woman. I love your hair, by the way. If you're
Thank
if you're not
you.
watching the video and you haven't seen her, go look her up because she is like fire. Like,
Thank
I
you.
love it.
Thank you.
Everything about you would be either super intimidating to a man, as far as like, the man with the ego problem would be like, or you're just like, hell yes, this is my lady. So I would imagine Chris is like, this is my lady. She's a psychotherapist. She's a badass. She's all these things. So as he's like putting you like on that pedestal, how long did it take? And and tell me if I'm wrong, did he do all these things and put you on this pedestal?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think behind the scenes, he was completely devaluing me. And I think that's where the drugging and the raping came in. So I went to do Croatia Yacht Week right before I met Chris. And I came back, I had like a little virus. So when I met Chris, I wasn't feeling great. But then when Chris moved in, I kept getting sicker and sicker and sicker to the point I am in and out of the hospitals. I'd really never been in the hospital before in my entire life. The doctors can't figure out what is wrong with me. And then it turns out, after the incident happened and I got Chris's phone and I went through Chris's phone and I found all the pictures of me just sleeping that I have zero recollection of him taking. And it doesn't even look like I'm sleeping. They look like I'm drugged up, where he's taking selfies with me in this position. And in one of the photos, I look posed. I look completely posed. And then it clicks in my head that there was at least one instance that I remember where I woke up in the middle of the night with Chris inside me and freaking out. And then, of course, he's rationalizing it by saying, I thought you were awake. And I freaked out in that moment. I was like, I was not awake. Like, don't ever do something like that again. You make sure I'm awake and that I'm consenting to having sex if you want to have sex in the middle of the night. So it clicked after I found the videos of him masturbating to me and then, showing me passed out, that he had been drugging and raping me in my sleep. Because one thing Chris always did was that he made my water. And I would put these BCAAs in my water, so it gave it a little flavor. So I probably couldn't taste whatever Chris was putting in there. And that's how I think Chris was devaluing me behind the scenes. I think because I was so independent, I didn't need him. I, had my own private practice and, I had a good group of friends. I was really everything I think Chris wasn't. The only way he could have control and power over me was by me not knowing what he did to me when I was sleeping.
Mind is blowing. My mind is absolutely melting. Did this start? Do you know when it started?
I don't. I mean, the videos and the pictures I found in his phone, at some point I had to stop looking because it just made me physically ill. I can tell you I started to get really, really sick in November of 2019. And that's when Chris moved in. I mean, our entire relationship, I was on prednisone. So I was on prednisone for about a year and a half.
Holy shit.
In and out of doctor's office. I would get these rashes that would be welts. And then my whole body was like one big bruise because these rashes would then turn into these bruises. I was actually diagnosed with a very rare autoimmune disease because they biopsied one of these hives called urticarial vasculitis. The doctors it is that rare that the doctors could not believe it. And I will tell you, since Chris and I have broken up, I have never had another symptom since. No headaches, no hospital visits, no hives, no stomach issues. One time my leg stopped working that landed. I've never had another symptom, not one.
This is wild because not only did this all obviously it's caused because you've been drugged, but we're hearing so often that when you're in a relationship like this, these unexplained autoimmune, lupus, Hashimoto's, all like shit that the doctor's like, I don't know, I'm just going to put you in this category and here's some medicine to fix it. These symptoms go away when you leave the toxic relationship.
Yeah.
And how crazy going into going back to how your body is attuned, your body is responding where your head is still fucking with you. And your body is like, I am shutting down because it's kind of, you're not listening to me.
Right. Your body knows it's going through some type of trauma before your brain does. It's like the book, The Body Knows the Score, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your body 100% knows that something is going on, even if it's, not every case is someone being drugged, obviously, but they can still have autoimmune diseases because of the trauma they're experiencing that they might not, recognize yet. And I firmly believe that.
So was Chris drugging you every day or you don't know? You don't know the answer?
I have to be honest with you. I don't know. The police found in Chris's closet drugs, and they went through those drugs, and there were 2 drugs in there that were used to treat breast cancer. That apparently the detective on my case, Detective Dave Littman, went and asked a bunch of doctors, like, hey, these are all the symptoms Kelly told me before we found these drugs. These are all the symptoms that she reported. Can these drugs cause these symptoms? And apparently all the doctors said, absolutely. Everything Kelly said can be side effects of these drugs. I think Chris probably was drugging me real often, because when I tell you, Lindsay, I was so tired. There were days I could barely get in the shower, not only because I was too tired to get into the shower, but because the water would make me break out in the severe hives. Um, I spent most of my relationship with Chris in bed. So I do believe that, he was doing it, maybe not every day, but certainly multiple times a week.
Did his ex-wife ever have any of these experiences?
So I do know that I am not the first to believe that Chris was drugging and raping them. I can also tell you that I'm not sure I'm the last either.
Fucking A. Like,
Yeah,
so absolutely twisted, wrong, just evil, illegal. I am
absolutely.
so incredibly grateful you're here. And I am
Thank you.
so incredibly disturbed and sorry that you experienced this.
And that's why I reported it. I'm very well aware that sexual assault very rarely is prosecuted and prosecuted successfully. But my thinking in reporting the drugging and the rape was, even if it doesn't, go anywhere, at least there now is a report that he was doing this. So when, not even if, when he does this again, because he will, and someone else reports, at least it's documented that someone else was saying this. So maybe that will be enough to at some point bring charges against him for the sexual assault. So, I was devastated that they weren't going to, that they did a year-long investigation into the sexual assault in my situation. And they said that there just wasn't enough evidence. And by the time they got the warrant for Chris's phone, he completely wiped out his phone. So they couldn't find, I only had the pictures I sent to my phone from his phone, which they said wasn't enough. And I remember saying to them, well, isn't it look really guilty that he completely factory reset his phone? And they said, oh, yeah, absolutely. But without any evidence, what do you want us to do?
Fuck off. Like, without evidence, the evidence is us. Like you.
Right.
Like, that is the evidence. It blows my mind. And I want to repeat this to the besties that are listening. Consent can change at any time.
Absolutely.
Just because you're in a relationship, just because you're married, your partner does not have permission to have sex with you without your consent.
Right. Absolutely. And I think the other important thing that I'd love to mention is I don't want to deter anyone from ever reporting their abuse, their sexual assault ever, even though the system, like I said before, sexual assault cases rarely get picked up for prosecution. I can't tell you, even knowing that, the weight that was lifted off my shoulders, just reporting it, knowing that, I did my part. Like, I did my job. Whether what happens is out of my control, but at least I know that I did what I could do. So that would be my best advice is, yeah, even if it doesn't get picked up to be prosecuted, like, you might feel better and it might be part of your own healing to report.
Thank you for saying that. Okay, Kelly, I want to walk you through just the part where you discover this to the incident.
So I didn't even discover that until after the incident. So basically, up until the day Chris tried to kill me, I would have probably told you that I had the best husband in the world. Early that morning, Chris fell asleep, and the way he fell asleep just looked bizarre to me. And I can remember, and this is the first time I listened to my gut, and thank God I did, because I took Chester, my dog, who I had at the time, out to the bathroom, and I came back in and I looked at him sleeping, and my gut was like, look in his phone. Look in his phone. And I had only ever looked in his phone once before, and that was to look at a picture he took of something he wanted me to buy. So it wasn't like common practice of me going through his phone. And thank God I listened to my gut because it probably saved my life. So I went into the bathroom. And again, my gut's saying something's wrong, something's wrong. So I go into the bathroom with his phone and my phone. I lock the door. I open his messages and I find all these disgusting, demeaning messages with another woman on Instagram. So then I start taking pictures because I know these messages are going to disappear. So then my gut is saying, like, you don't know who you're married to. You don't know who this man is. So my next step before waking Chris up was I went into my closet and I had 2 safes in there and I had money, I had my jewelry, I also had my gun. So I changed the codes to my safe. And people are like, well, why'd you do that? Did you think he was going to hurt you with the gun? No, I didn't. The thought of just, I don't know who I'm married to was so loud in my head. So then I wake Chris up. And in Toxic, they only had 43 minutes to make this episode. So they make it look like it's something that happened really fast. This was an all-day event. So the attack actually didn't happen until about 6:45 that night. And I'm waking him up at like 6 in the morning. So I wake him up. I start reciting because I had printed out the messages to give him his own little packet if he wanted to read along as I read them. And I woke him up and I first started with saying to him, so you want to come off her stomach? And his face just dropped. And I said, here's your little packet. Why don't we read along? So you can't say I'm making anything up. And he just goes into the shower. So then I'm hysterical. And I said to him, I really don't want you here today, but we have a bunch of contractors coming to the house and I can't deal with them because I had just done a complete gut job renovation in the inside of my home. And the day he destroyed my house was actually the final walkthrough that the contractors were doing. Yep. And I actually just posted a video on my Instagram where right before the attack, Chris actually texted my contractor saying, thanks so much for the work you did on Kelly's house. I hope she loves it. And literally 4 minutes later, he destroys the home.
Can we stop right there for just a second? These people, these pathological people, love to destroy your shit. Now, your destruction is massive. But let's go back to those little pink flags. Did he ever break anything or take something away? Were there any indicators at the beginning before this happened?
So he never broke anything, but certain things would go missing. And I'm a very type A personality. My house, I would even say I can be a little OCD. So I know where everything is. So for me to lose something, it's rare, and it also causes me a massive amount of anxiety. One of the things I lost was my filing cabinet keys. And I had another set, but I didn't know where these keys were. And Chris is like, yeah, I don't know where they are. I haven't seen them. So after everything happened, and I searched my house up and down just, for stuff that he left and whatnot. He had taped those keys to the back of his safe in his closet.
Oh my God.
So he did shit like that, I think.
Okay.
I know he did it with the keys because why would I tape them to the back? And of course I would remember. But there were other things that went missing, but little things that I wouldn't say, oh my God, he definitely did that to screw with me.
Yeah.
That would make sense that, I misplaced them.
My engagement ring, my diamond ring went missing. And this is one of those things when you take your jewelry off to wash your face, for me, I 100% put it in the same place every time.
Right.
Without question. And it was a little dish. It was one of those little, from Mexico, salt dishes. And so it was sitting there right next. I put it there every single time. And the rock was big, y'all. So it was not comfortable to always sleep with it or, whatever. So I just put it there. And then it disappeared. And for so long, I was gaslit into believing, they even said, oh, you threw it off the balcony. I bet you threw it away. Why the fuck would I throw it away? That's stupid. I wouldn't throw it away.
Right.
Oh, and then the contractors took it or the maid took it or whatever. And I'm forever, I'll never know the answer. But I was like made to feel so bad that it was gone.
Yeah.
And that
it's,
it was
it's gaslighting in its own form,
Yeah.
right? Because now you're feeling like, oh my God, I'm crazy. I can't believe I lost this. And
Yeah.
where did I put it? It's 100% gaslighting in a different way.
Hi, I'm Sarah Wayne Callies, and I played Dr. Sarah Tancredi on Prison Break.
And I'm Paul Edelstein, and I played Agent Paul Kellerman on Prison Break. Please join us on our rewatch podcast, Prison Breaking, with Sarah and Paul.
We're going to have all kinds of guests and never before told stories. So follow us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. And you can subscribe to our watch party on the link there. We can't wait to see you there.
And follow us on Instagram at Prison Break Podcast. See you there.
So he goes back to your contractor and is like, thank you so much. I'm about to destroy her house.
Right. Well, he doesn't say that. He just says, thanks so much. I hope Kelly loves it. Then after he sends that text, which I didn't know, because at this point, what happened before that is, like I said, I said to Chris, leave me alone. If you're staying here today, I'm staying in the bedroom. I want nothing to do with you. But of course, he didn't leave me alone. He kept coming in and out. And at one point, so he didn't know that I told my best friend, Christina, what was going on. So at one point, I'm on the phone with Christina. I can hear him coming in. I get off the phone with her, and he comes in and he tries to get me to hit him. So he's like, hit me, you'll feel better. And I'm sitting on the bed and I'm thinking, what the fuck is he talking about? So I look at him and I'm like, I'm not going to hit you. I've never laid a hand on you. I'm not going to start now. I said, I'm not in physical pain. Like, I'm in emotional pain. Do you know what would make me feel better? What would make me feel better is I would shoot myself in the head before I ever lay a hand on you in front of you. So you have to live with that for the rest of your life. He turns around. I call Christina to tell her what happened. I'm in the middle of telling her what just happened. He beeps in to Christina. So I'm like, pick up the phone. And he says to Christina, Kelly just said she's going to shoot me with the gun. So now she knows I didn't say that. So she gets off the phone with him, calls me back. And I'm like, gun's got to go. Why is he lying about my gun?
Mm-hmm.
So I end up taking the gun out of the house that night. When I'm out of the house taking the gun to my sister's house, that's when he texts the contractor. That's when he goes in front of the mirror where you see on the show that mirror monologue, otherwise known as the cockalogue. That's where he's in the mirror basically telling me to go fuck myself. And as he's filming that mirror monologue, my ADT cameras see me pulling into the driveway, walking into the garage, and that's where he meets me in the foyer, and he gets up into my face, and he's naked, and he's bleeding because he cut himself. And he says to me, thanks so much for always having the ID channel on, because now I'm going to make this look like you tried to murder me. And he smeared his blood all over my face, my chest, my hair, and then I take off. And that's when the brutal 45-minute assault occurred, where he physically assaulted me multiple times, simultaneously doing at least $63,000 worth of damage to my home. He threw my head through the sheetrock wall, where I lost consciousness. He threw me into the bedside table, where I once again lost consciousness. He held a military knife to my throat. He strangled me 3 separate times, and then he poured a bottle of Xanax down my throat, trying to get me to swallow the pills to kill myself.
No words.
And when I tell you the man never laid a hand on me before that day, he never laid a hand on me before that day. And what I think is something important for the listeners to know is what I think made Chris spiral and snap. Like, Chris knew exactly what he was doing. It wasn't a matter of him in this blackout rage. He knew exactly what I was doing, and I can explain how. But at one point, Chris came into the room and, he kept coming in and saying, are you leaving me? Are you leaving me? And I said to him, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know. And then finally, at one point, he came in and, he said, are you leaving? And at that point, I'd made the decision that I was leaving him. Now, mind you, I didn't know I was poking a bear.
Yeah.
I didn't think he was a bear.
I really want to stop you for just a second, because we have to remind our besties, the most dangerous time for a woman her life is in danger is when she says she's leaving.
Yes.
And that's exactly what happened to you.
And why I want to make that point so clear. So when he walked in and he said, are you leaving me for the umpteenth time that day? And I turned and I said, yeah, Chris, I'm leaving you. This marriage is over. I think when I said that, that signed my death warrant.
Yeah.
So for anyone who's listening, I don't care if your marriage isn't abusive. If you are planning on telling your significant other you are leaving, make sure you have some sort of safety plan set up, because it's 100% the most dangerous time, especially for someone who's in a narcissistic or already violent, domestic violent related relationship.
You have to understand that these pathological people want two things: power and control.
Right.
You have just taken away their power. I'm going to leave my middle finger up. And control.
Right.
That is a dangerous position to put yourself in.
Absolutely.
And like you said, you didn't know you were poking the bear.
Exactly.
I thank you for using the bear reference, because I'd rather be in a room with a bear any day of the week than with a psychopath or pathological person.
Yeah. Oh, 100. I better rather be in a room with 100 bears than one psychological, pathological person. Right. Absolutely. 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 Because the bear is going to get it over and done with, right? The bear is going to kill me and that's going to be it. The
Yeah.
pathological person is going to torture you until they kill you.
Yeah. So this is 45 minutes.
45 minutes.
And what's really fucking twisted is he's already drugged you in the past. Like he's already abused you. He's already done these heinous, horrific, disgusting things to you.
Right.
And so this is like almost nothing. This is just the finishing of what he's already been doing.
Yeah, I think he figured, you know what? And he never expected me to get that phone, right? Because I wasn't supposed to make it out alive that night. And luckily, I was able to get out of the house. I didn't know it at the time, but one of my 911 calls did go through, because every time I tried to call 911, that was when Chris would strangle me and throw the phone. One of my calls did go through. That's how the police got there that fast. But I ran across the street to my neighbors. They also called 911, but then I ran back into the house because I saw Chris was heading towards the basement, probably looking for me because he didn't know I got out of the house. And the basement is where I hid Chester. And I always get emotional when I talk about Chester, but there was no way that I was going to let that man lay a hand on my dog, So I made the decision to run back in the house, and I never advocate for anyone to make that same decision. I understand that I was risking my life for my dog, but that was a personal decision I was willing to make. And thank God my smart dog must have sat at the top of the steps when Chris opened the basement door, because when I ran in, he was there and I was able to grab him, put him in the office, and then I barricaded Chris in the basement. And thank God the police showed up when they did, because when they barged in and opened the basement door, they said that Chris was walking up the stairs with a knife. So if they didn't come when they did, I don't think I'd be here today.
Oh my, what is his like, does he military training? Like what he could have done this? I mean,
so Chris is military trained. He was staff sergeant in the Army. Chris also is a chemicals and weapons specialist for the government.
okay, now these chills just went over the whole body.
Yeah. So complete predator, and has the knowledge to also be an effective predator.
Yeah.
He uses the system to further abuse, right? So then I entered into a family court battle with him where my divorce took over 4 years for an 11th month marriage. And also criminal proceedings that he dragged out, where the system was anything but kind to me.
It's like if you've listened to the show, you know I love to have an opinion and I talk a lot. I can't form my brain is not rationalizing any of this. You have everything stacked in your favor. The evidence is there. It's obvious what he was like.
Right.
When the police show up, you're battered.
Right.
How is he not just like taken to jail and like throw the key away?
Chris had multiple charges. He never served a minute, not a minute in jail. And ultimately, in October of 2022, Chris pled guilty to aggravated assault by strangulation, criminal mischief for the $63,000 worth of damage he did to my home. And I always say that was $63,000 of receipts I could find. Chris did well over $100,000 worth of damage to my home that night. And then he pled guilty to possession of a deadly weapon. Chris got 3 years probation.
Wow.
So people wonder, and I remember saying this to the prosecutor who I did not get along with. I remember saying to her, like, I'm so tired of I said it to her, you, but just in general, I'm tired of people talking about why victims don't report. We need to figure out why we would. Because I said to her, I don't know why I'm sitting here when this is the way I'm being treated by the system, and this is the end result. For what this man did to me in my life, my home, he got 3 years probation. This is why we're not reporting.
He literally got a freaking voucher to go back and do it again to someone else.
And from what I understand, maybe it wasn't as bad as it was with me, but he certainly hasn't stopped. He certainly hasn't stopped. I know for a fact he's caused an enormous amount of chaos in his most recent ex-girlfriend's life.
I don't even know. This is why we do this. This is why we're talking about it. This is why we're saying it out loud. Because, and again, please don't hear this and think, oh, well, then I'm definitely not going to report it because it didn't look how it worked out for Kelly or look how it worked. No, because you have to do it for a million reasons. And it is your responsibility to do it for yourself, for your family, for your kids, for the next person.
Yes.
And the cycle has to stop. But I am mortified and my heart is just like, I can't believe it, Kelly, that you can sit there and you're 3 years of probation. What was your thought? Did you just want to sink into yourself?
I did. I was, I wanted to at many points just give up and say, screw it. Like, I don't want, why should I cooperate with the state on his charges if this is how it's going to go? But to piggyback off of what you just said, from day one, I said, I'm going to do everything I can to prevent this from happening to the next woman. And to be honest with you, who I am as a person, I couldn't look myself in the mirror if I didn't report. Even if it didn't go anywhere, again, it's kind of like the issue with the sexual assault. Like, I wanted it documented that at least someone was saying this. I came to find out because I hired private investigators and whatnot to get in touch with the exes. Chris is not a first-time offender. On paper, he is.
Sure.
But, he picks women that he knows won't report. I'm fairly convinced he didn't think I would report. I think he underestimated me. But I understand why his exes didn't, So I get why they didn't, but like you said, the cycle has to stop. Someone had to report him. So at least now the man's got a record. So again, when he does this again, the consequences will be worse.
Mm-hmm.
So do I feel like I got justice by the system? No, I don't. But here's where my justice is. Sitting here with you, being able to tell my story publicly, being on Toxic was huge for me. And my justice is through Kelly's Canines, Tales of Courage, which is my nonprofit, that is my passion. And that's where I found justice with this whole situation.
I love it. That is amazing to hear. Also, just like the fact that Toxic was on ID Discovery and that was like the thing he said to you. You're like, yeah,
Right.
I did end up on ID Discovery, bitch, but
Right.
to tell my story.
Right. I did you one better. I got you your own fucking episode.
There's some justice in that, I have to say.
100%. Absolutely. Things do come full circle. They come full circle.
I just think that what you have done is so incredibly brave. And I mean, brave isn't even the word. It's like next level badassery that you have taken your pain, you're turning it into purpose. 3 months is fucking bullshit. It's total bullshit. But you coming on my show, you going on other platforms and you sharing this, it may not be Chris's next victim that doesn't get, but it's somebody that's listening who gets saved. So you are saving lives every single time you share your story.
Thank you. That's the goal.
I want to close out with the light that happened. So Kelly's Canines. Let's get into that.
So Chris was stalking at one point. We had gone to court for it. We couldn't prove it. You just don't feel safe. They use the legal system and against you, and the stuff they get away with is just insane. So the stalking was horrific.
Okay,
And
I
he
do
also
want to
had-
go back to that. Sorry, we'll edit this because
Yeah,
I
no, that's
forgot.
okay.
I left out that last, we talked about family court, then I went on a tangent. So let's just go back for a little bit. So he gets 3 months probation. You're
Or
in
3 years.
Or 3 years, sorry.
probation.
3 years probation. And you're in family court. Let's be honest. Family court, you don't even have to be kids and you're stuck in family court. It is the other abuser and he took advantage of it. So for how long? This is what year? And then
So we filed for divorce. For argument's sake, let's say January of 2020, I officially filed for divorce. My divorce was not finalized until October of 2023. And mind you, again, my marriage was January of 2019, and the incident happened December 16th, 2019, 11 months. So I was divorcing longer than I was married.
oh my God, it's just wrong.
And he was coming after my house, which I lived in for 10 years, and Chris lived in for 11 months as a married couple. He wanted half my home. He didn't get it, but I had to fight it.
Court abuse. Let's just say it what it is. Litigate abuse. It's happening.
100%. 100%. And the system allows that to happen. Allows it, why is he taking 7 months to fill out his discovery? And now I have to file a $10,000 motion.
Because he can.
Right. Exactly. Because the system allows it.
That's just, that is the part that is just mind blowing. So in addition to everything else that they all, the judge, everybody knows you've been through, now they're allowing, whether or not they're aware or not aware, this continued abuse. So then you are forced to communicate with your abuser.
See him, whether it's Zoom or in person, where he's doing fucked up shit that I'm reporting. So one of the things that he did was for one of our restraining order hearings, he wore his wedding suit that's embroidered with my name, my dead parents' names, my our wedding date. He's doing shit like this. Now, again, I understand they can't prosecute him on the recycled wedding suit law, but I remember saying to the prosecutor, doesn't this just speak volumes to the predator and animal you're dealing with?
Right.
He's at a restraining order hearing. He's fucking wearing his wedding suit.
Yeah. Right. No, it's fucked up. You're hearing these. I don't know where I heard this or read this, but someone was saying that their ex would use their Netflix account to, abuse them on those little tiles where you can change the name of whoever the person is. And they would they got into their Netflix account and they were like, I'm going to kill you. All this shit on their,
my God.
through their Netflix home, page.
It's sick. It what they do, one time Chris changed his Instagram, profile picture to knives, which was the knives an exact replica of the one he held to my throat. His most recent ex-girlfriend gave me the proof that Chris's Wi-Fi password was 12/16/19, exclamation point @ sign, the date he assaulted me. His Wi-Fi password was the date he assaulted me and destroyed my home. So could you imagine coming into his house? What's the Wi-Fi? You're typing in the date that this man tried to murder me.
And he is walking free. Why? That is, that's so crazy. It's or law. It's wrong. It's criminal.
100%. It is. And it's also, I remember saying, to the prosecutor's office, you guys have blood on your hands for when he does this again, because you're the one that let him out to go do this again.
So how are you, where did your, I'm still like trying to find the justice here.
Well, there wasn't any until I got it for myself. Let's be honest.
Okay.
So I'm being stalked. I'm in family court. There's criminal proceedings going on. Chris at one point had my gun taken away from me. I was red flagged. So they came and, took my gun away from me, and I had to go to court for that. So I'm not feeling safe. So I decide I'm going to get a protection dog. And I have no experience with protection dogs. Someone brought it up to me and they were like, hey, why don't you get a protection dog? And I'm thinking, wow, normal people can have one of those. Like, I thought you don't have to be military or police. So I go on Google and I find Metro Canine Academy in Randolph, New Jersey. And I call, his name is Bobby Gerla. I call Bobby and I say, hey, listen, I'm a domestic violence survivor, a recent one. I think I need a dog. I have this video of what my house looks like. I think you should see it. Maybe it'll help you decide what kind of dog I need. So I send him this video, and I obviously have never met him. And he calls me back 15 minutes later, and he's like, listen, I don't know you, and I've seen a lot of bad shit in my life, but this is the worst fucking thing I've ever seen. I don't even want you living in your own house without a dog. Can you come up tomorrow? So I'm like, sure. So me and a girlfriend go up, and I always tell this story. He brings out, he first tells me he has really 2 dogs that he thinks would be a fit for me. The first dog, he's like, no one's getting in your house. Like, you can't even have any friends over. You have to put this dog away. And at first, I have to be honest, that was kind of appealing because I didn't want anyone in my house anymore. So it's kind of like, oh, I don't really want to associate with people. So maybe I do want this dog. But then after thinking about it, I'm like, I think I'd like to have a friend over at some point. So he's like, Stella. Stella's completely protection trained, obviously highly trained in obedience, but she's very territorial. So like, no one is getting in your house that you don't want in your house, even if she knows them. So I get up to his field, and one of his guys brings Stella out for me, and she's not a lovable dog. Like, she's very independent. Obviously, you can pet her and whatnot, but she's not looking to like cuddle up with you. So she sits down next to me and I'm petting her. And all of a sudden, this stranger starts walking towards me to come talk to me. And I kid you not, Lindsay, Stella took her right paw and put it over my foot and just leaned her body against me. And in that moment, I was like, she's saying that she got me. Like,
Yeah.
This is my dog. So then in August of 2020, Stella came home with me. And of course, something I didn't know before I got a protection dog is even though these dogs are already trained, you still have to keep up with the training.
Mhm.
So I did. And I just fell in love with it. So not only was I now feeling physically safe having this dog and by taking this training, I was feeling emotionally stronger. I was feeling empowered, and it legitimately changed my life. So I currently now have 3 of my own personal protection dogs. My middle one, Luca, I compete with in Schutzhund trials. And about a year and a half ago, I woke up one day and I'm like, I want to be able to give what I've gotten from these dogs and this training to other survivors. But the reality is these dogs are really expensive. I was very privileged and fortunate to be able to afford one of them. But I understand the average, person can't necessarily afford a $25,000 dog. Yeah.
Wow.
So that's how Kelly's Canines Tales of Courage was born, where we are now a 501c3 nonprofit, and we provide domestic violence survivors and sexual assault survivors with trained protection dogs.
I'm crying.
Oh,
I love
you're
that.
gonna make me cry. You're gonna make me cry. And we currently have so we really just launched. We have our first survivor. Now I'm gonna cry. Who is about ready to bring her dog home with her. And she has said just how life-changing. She doesn't even have the dog home with her yet. And she has said just how life-changing this training has been, this process has been. Knowing who her dog is and with him to know what he is capable of. I think this nonprofit is going to be changing a lot of lives. And we're also building a community. So lives. And we're also with the training of the dog, community of support in so many ways.
It's so inspiring to also to just know. I mean, you're a baddie. You had every reason to just you didn't have to do any of this, and no one would ever be like be mad at you like, oh, why didn't you do anything? You have like the reason to sit there and just be struggling and you're not surviving, you're thriving. You are just such a image of what you can do with your life when you turn your pain into purpose.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I don't think I would be who I am if I didn't. Like I'm the type of person where I feel like in order to make sense of what happened to me, I had to do some sort of good with it. I had to.
I cannot wait for this episode to come out, by the way. So if you're listening right now, just know I'm like so excited. I'm pushing it ahead. Like it's coming out like tomorrow because this is so important. And you're a baddie. And thank you for sharing your story with us and doing the work that you're doing. And we've got to find some ways to keep working together and amplifying.
Thank you for having me.
Yes.
Thank you for having me. And thank you for having this platform. And I have to tell you, I love the name of the podcast because everyone thinks a bitch is a bad thing. You know what? I'm a bitch and I own it and I like it because being a bitch got me to where I am right now. And being a bitch helped with my healing. So for everyone out there, like, being a bitch is a great thing.
It is such a great thing because, and this is why we are flipping the script. Like being called a bitch used to gut me. And now I'm like, I'm owning it. I'm a bad bitch. I can say it. You can't. But
right.
Thank you for being a bad bitch, Kelly.
And I think you are changing lives just by what you're doing and the awareness and the education you're bringing. And, it's when people know that they're not alone, that in itself is life-saving. So thank you for all you're doing.
I thank you. I love that. And I want to invite you into my club. And the club, we don't have any initiation fees and there's definitely no hazing. You've been through all the things. And to bring you to this point to say it's the BFF Alliance and the acronym is Bitches Fighting for Freedom. I would love for you to join our club.
I would be honored.
Awesome. You are an inspiration. You are a new BFF for all of our besties listening. And Kelly, thank you so much for everything you're doing. And I love you.
Thank you. And I love you and all your listeners. Thank you.
Well, thank you for joining us on this episode of Bitch Sesh with your new BFF, Kelly and Kelly's Canines. Where can we find you?
So you can find me on all major social media platforms. Instagram, I'm under Real Talk with Kelly, as well as Kelly Canines, Tales of Courage. I'm on TikTok. I'm on Facebook. Most interactive, I would say, on Instagram and TikTok. So please follow me, message me. And, one of my favorite things to do is to talk with, other survivors. It really is.
Okay. Well, I'm sure that our besties will be reaching out to you.
Great.
Okay. We will see you soon. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Bye, besties.
Bye.
What an amazing woman. What a baddie. I just love Kelly so much. She's our new BFF. She's joined the bestie gang. Remember, there is no safety in staying silent. If you're in immediate danger, please use 911, sleep on a friend's couch, do whatever you need to do to get safe. We also would love to encourage you to contact the National Domestic Violence Hotline or the hotline.org at 1-800-799-SAFE, SAFE. That's 1-800-799-7233. Available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Confidential and there's different languages. I don't know how many, but lots of different languages. And you can chat. It's completely confidential. You can text START, S-T-A-R-T, to 88788. That's the National Domestic Violence Hotline, or the hotline.org. They're here to help you. And love is respect. So texting help, especially for young people or teens, text LOVEIS to 22522 for support and resources. If you are in the Southern California area, San Diego specific, reach out to the BFF Alliance. That's the bffalliance.org. And remember, you can reach out to us on our social media. Instagram is at Bitch is a Bad Word Pod. TikTok and YouTube is Bitch is a Bad Word. Send us your texties from your exties on our landline, 331 bitches. You can leave us a voicemail. I personally listen to all of them. We respond to your text messages. You can slide your texties from your exties or any unhinged thing that your ex did into our DMs. If you'd like, we can read it anonymously on our show. You can go and join our private Discord server on patreon.com, completely anonymous. We vet everybody. It's a safe place for you to go and build your network and find a bestie. Patreon.com/bitch is a bad word. We drop our episodes every Tuesday on the main feed. So we will see you next Tuesday, and Bitch Sus every Thursday. So we will see you next Thursday too. Both of those together can spell the acronym with the big C word. Favorite C word of these people. Thanks so much for joining us. I'll see you next time. Love you, besties. Our editor is Kevin Mackler. Our music was composed by Drew Kevorkian. Our art design was created by Eric Johnson and Kevin Roche. Our intern is Joe Melson. And this is a Caliber Studios production. Bitches being bad.